you can see, it is now just close to midnight, and it is Friday, the 2nd of June 2023. This came through on my amazing Google alerts. I'm expecting that I can talk about this because this is from the ABC network in America, mainstream media. As you can see, it came out this morning when I received it, which would be the 1st of June in America, and we're a day later, so we're the 2nd. But this is really, really interesting because I've been thinking, everyone keeps talking about how, and I'm not talking about the general public, I'm talking about the media, businesses, governments, industries, that all say, no, we're not putting the vaccines into the animals, we're not putting it into the people, and we're not putting it into the food supply. We're not doing any of that. No, we're not. So we've debunked it. And I can sort of give that a tick and say, yes, that's pretty true and correct. But my concern is, and this is what this is all about, that it's not the problem of the therapy. It's the method of transmission that is the problem, which is the mRNA or the CRISPR technology. That is what is dangerous. It's not sustainable for a productive, ongoing life. For whatever product it is, whether it's a seed, an animal, a plant, a human being, it's just not right. This here is really quite sad because it seems that family members are destroying each other. So anyway, this here is based, as you can see, it's about gene editing, which is the new rave, using the CRISPR technology where they can they can cut a little bit, snip a little bit here and snip a little bit there and insert something in its place. So when you think about it, gene editing is not just about removing part of a gene, it's about replacing part of a gene as well, because you can't have a gap. You've got to replace it with something, otherwise there's a hole. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, but from the research that I've done, it sort of works along those lines. That's a very layman's basic terms. But here they're talking about this poor person here. Will it even let me bring it up? No, won't even let me bring it up. It's obviously a link from a ABC America News Network. So Terry Horgan is with his parents there at Maturi Falls in New York. He's a lone volunteer in gene editing, targeting a super rare disease that he has. He has where his muscles just deteriorate, hence he's in a wheelchair. So it's not like multiple sclerosis, it's not like Parkinson's, it's where your body just starts to degrade and disintegrate upon itself. So he has a rare form of Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Having died in the uterus? No, having died after a virus. But anyway, I don't understand all of that. But anyways, he's 27 years of age. His brother, to cut a long story short, you can read this yourself. His brother is trying to cure him. So his brother has started a foundation which is to look at people that have genetic defects or rare genetic abnormalities, that they can use this technology, this CRISPR technology, to try to fix them. So they were only used the carry treatment on the body, but it didn't usually make people sick. Combined with his treatment, triggered a problem that ultimately killed him. Okay, so look at that. But researchers said the virus, one used to carry the treatment to the body, usually doesn't make people sick. But combine it with his condition, it triggered the problems, and that killed him. So he died, okay? He took this gene technology and it ended up killing him. Their researchers linked death in gene editing study to a virus used to develop the treatment, not CRISPR. Okay, so are they using that as a double-edged sword, saying, hey, the CRISPR technology isn't bad, but the other side of the coin is the whole process fate ultimately ended up with his demise. He ended up dying. So his brother, starts this foundation, and there it is. Horgan was enrolled in an early stage safety trial approved by the FDA, and was sponsored by Cure Rare Disease, a Connecticut-based non-profit founded by his brother. Rich. Okay, he wanted to get rich, I think. What an apt name. I'm sorry, but I think it's an apt name. Because his brother's really sick with this chronic disease, this super, super rare chronic disease. His life is slowly being destroyed. He then starts a non-profit foundation for himself, which I'm sure he's paid handsomely for, and is trying to find a cure, right? So in a statement, Rich Horgan, the brother that's running this foundation, thanked the research team led by the University of Massachusetts and Yale University through a comprehensive investigation that provided a valuable insight. He added, on a personal note, this study is another important step towards honouring Terry's legacy, as his treatment will continue, as will our entire families, as to the rare disease community. So basically, he's saying that, don't forget my brother. He did all of this to try to make things better. But I think Rich, whose name again is very appropriate, is going to, in some way, and I think, I have no evidence, I don't have any proof, this is just what my gut is telling me, that Rich is going to go, well, if you want to use him as his legacy and to tell everybody about how brave he was and how much faith the whole family had, not just him, but the whole family, that's why they want to have it on a personal note. This study is another important step towards honouring Terry's legacy and his commitment, as well as our entire family. So he's got to dump everybody into this, that they need to be financially compensated. That's what I'm saying. I think they will, if you want to use his story to push this treatment, this technology, as a possibility for people to be cured of these horrible, horrible diseases. And I 100% agree, people need to be cured of these diseases, but the therapy or the possible cure needs to be safe, and it needs to be effective. And I can't say anything else. And we know where those two words have come up many times when it comes to this type of thing, that didn't turn out to be as safe or as effective as anyone thought. And now the first guy that tries one of these therapies is now dead. If that doesn't tell you something, I don't know what to say. So the process began with suppressing his immune system to prepare his body for the therapy, which was delivered by IV with a high dose. How do they know the dose? Look at the size of him. He was tiny because he hadn't grown properly. He had muscle dystrophy. His muscles were destroyed. So maybe he is the trial. I don't know. But anyway, and this is known as an adeno-adrenic associated viral vector, according to the Cure Rare Diseases. So now Rich is also a doctor. Okay. But he then began experiencing problems and went into cardiac arrest 6 days after the treatment and died 2 days later from organ failure and brain damage. So he started with muscular dystrophy, where he couldn't really move around, but was still cognitively fine, and his internal organs were okay. Not to say that they weren't going to fail later, but he has this treatment, and within 6 days, he's dying. So that's pretty... that's pretty scary. And the other time we heard about people getting sick and passing away very quickly after having some treatment that was not really used to being out in the public, so it might have been a bit of an experiment. Yeah, and it's been happening for the last 2.5 years. So I'm just saying, read all of this. If you're in America, go onto the ABC News and maybe there's a video on it somewhere. Because I just think that the treatment itself is fantastic. You know, the idea of the treatment is fantastic. People need to be cured. They need to go on to live productive, safe, effective lives, out of pain, out of misery, and to be able to have some satisfaction and some enjoyment in their life. But if it means that at the risk of possibly getting just one little bit of that, you know, look at his legs. Look at the photo of him. There's nothing there. He has no legs. He's in a wheelchair. He has no possibility. Probably cannot walk, probably cannot stand. And it's too little too late for treatment like that. So to risk that, to go through this therapy with the possibility that you might actually get a little bit of enjoyment in your life, but the downside is 6 days later you're going to be passing away. I know I'd say thank you very much for the kind offer. I really appreciate that you've offered to give me this life-changing experience, but I want my life to end in a natural way, not through this type of process. So I would say that this treatment that this poor Horgan went through was not a life-changer experience. It was a life-ender experience. And and I'm only laughing out of the irony of it. It's meant to change his life, and all it did was do the opposite. It ended his life. So think about the ramifications of all of that. Because they destroyed his immune system. So any flu, cold, anything would have got him into some massive infection, possible organ failure. And then to find out that's exactly what happened to him. So I'd like to think that they weren't going to continue with that, and that they would go, okay, maybe we need to reassess. But you know, if you're terminal yourself, if you've got cancer and you're terminal, yeah, you probably would volunteer up to possibly have some life-saving experience or treatment. You probably would. But if you're like he was, where he's 27 years of age, he's surrounded by a loving family, he just doesn't have good legs or movement. But anyway, maybe he had other conditions that we're not told about. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just saying that I would decline. If they offered that to me, I would decline. I'd say thank you, but no thank you. But anyway, take care, look after your friends, look after your family, and look after your dear darling animals. And I will say, as I always do, Godspeed to all. Godspeed.
It makes me sick what I do for this shitty planet.